What up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show, Thursday edition, with me doing the intro. Very strange, very abnormal. Haley Salvian is covering the U.S.-Canada Women's Rivalry Series in Cleveland, so she's got better things to do. I am here. Frank is not. Sean McIndoe is not. I'm here with two other goofballs who are along for the ride. It's Max Bultman and Dom Luszczyszyn. Fellas, how are we? How are we doing?
Doing great.
I'd like to get ahead of things here. I had no involvement in the plot to steal the 900th goal puck last night. I have an alibi. You can't prove anything.
I know it's Thursday. I don't want to make this just a series of callbacks to the Wednesday show. But we do need to call a certain co-host of mine to the carpet for a take that he had last night or yesterday afternoon. Frankie Corrado saying that Jordan Binnington, he's misunderstood. Not that bad of a guy. Really good dude off the ice. His reputation is undeserved. That's basically what Frankie said. We're paraphrasing a bit there. Last night, Jordan Binnington, with one of the ultimate attempted jerk bag moves, he tried to pocket Alex Ovechkin's 900th goal puck after Ovechkin scored it on a very funny shot, by the way. Let's start there. There was something very appropriate about the way that Ovechkin scored goal number 900. It was a completely harmless, just, throw it on net and see what happens. That felt appropriate to me, didn't it, fellas?
It was like a no look. It was just like, here, let's see what happens with this.
I think that's par for the course for Jordan Binnington this season, though.
It should have been Joel Hofer.
Are we sure he didn't want to just personally congratulate Alex Ovechkin, shake his hand, give him the puck, have a nice little moment in the lower concourse last night?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So that could be it. That could have been it.
It's doubly funny knowing how obsessive Ovechkin is about collecting memorabilia and all that stuff. Like, whenever his career is over, whether it's in Moscow or DC or whatever it is, he's going to have an incredible collection of sticks and jerseys and all sorts of stuff from all sorts of players. I actually asked him about it a couple weeks ago. I think he's waiting for his career to end to really put it all on display. But it would have been really funny if goal number 900, the puck from it just magically disappears. I'm glad the camera caught it. We would have had this would turn into a whole a whole series of video reviews and whodunits and whatever. It would have been a situation like when Pronger stole the puck during the Cup final a million years ago. I keep going back and forth on whether I'm annoyed at Jordan Binnington for doing this or whether I think it was funny enough to deserve some credit.
I think it was hilarious. Obviously, he plays a bit of the villain role in the league sometimes with his, let's just say, shenanigans. And considering this is the first goal to ever be a 900 goal puck, the fact he tried to hide it in his pants is, I think, just funny. If we lean into the fact that he is quote unquote misunderstood, maybe we should give him benefit of the doubt that this was just a funny thing that he did.
No, we shouldn't. It's not. We can let's bail on that immediately. That dude wanted to keep it for him. What do you think? Like during the handshake line, he just magically whips out the puck and gives it to Ovechkin, and that's that. He says, "Haha, gotcha." No way.
That'd be
He's
a good
petty.
bit.
We know
That'd be
this.
a good bit.
The two likeliest scenarios are keeping it himself or doing what Pronger did and literally throwing it in the garbage. And I don't know which of those is more insane. Like that's like throwing it in the garbage would literally be throwing away. I don't know what relative to home run balls. I don't think goal pucks are going for like that much, but we're talking about a significant sum of money that would literally just be like, no one can have this. Or you're keeping the puck for yourself, a puck that you got scored on just so the guy couldn't have it. Those are the two likeliest options by far.
We need to come up with some ranking. We're not going to do it right now, but we need to have a collection of all of Jordan Binnington's jerky moments. Like this is it a top 10? Is it a top 15? There's 3 things we know about this dude. It's that he wins big games. It's that he loses a lot of regular season games, and it's that he acts like a bastard in a lot of different circumstances. So I don't know. Stick tap, wag of the finger, whatever side of it you're on to Jordan Binnington. He gave us something to talk about today.
If we do that, you need Frankie to be the guy to show us what Jordan Binnington really meant during these situations as a misunderstood player.
Misunderstood. You know, a lot of people look at no, man. Sorry. Tough morning for Francisco. I want to talk about the Blues for a second. They're a disaster. I think that's fair to say. They get absolutely smoked by Washington last night. 4-8-2, 10 points. Puts them in a group with the Calgary Flames out west, which is where nobody else wants to be. Post-game vibes from them were putrid. You can go to the Blues official account to see some video from Braden Shen and Parayko and Jim Montgomery. This is unacceptable tonight. It's that simple. We have to dig in and show up for our fans, our city, and our owners. This is like that's Braden Shen talking. This is like red alarm, red alert, siren going off stuff for November 6th in a season. And I guess the caveat, Dom, let's hear from you on this, is like we've seen this from them in the past. This is a team that started out horribly last year and then obviously made the big coaching change and their fortunes kind of switched. That's clearly not in the cards this time around. St. Louis has their coach. They can't do the Drew Bannister to Jim Montgomery glow up that seemed to work so well for him last year. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the St. Louis Blues as one of our foremost Blues haters over the last few years.
Me, I love
not the
Blues.
model man. Don't hide behind the model. You personally hate the St. Louis Blues. You can just admit it.
Yeah, I don't hate the Blues, despite
you hate the Blues a little bit. I think
their entire fan base thinking I hate this team. It has been really funny this season because I have a very normal, tepid prediction that they would be mid, that they'd be an average team, which is roughly what they were last year. It's roughly what they've been in the past. I didn't think much of it, but then we got our only author rebuttal from old JR saying why I'll be wrong. And so I do think it's really funny that I am wrong. They are just bad. And they're 4-8-2. I didn't think they'd be bad. And I have already had a few Blues fans saying you were right. And I will say that I actually do think I'll be wrong.
Well, hold on a second.
Yes, that is true. That
Big, strong guys with tears in their eyes come up to me all the time saying, Dom Luszczyszyn, you were right about the St. Louis Blues.
Well, they're on Twitter, so I don't know about big, strong guys. But it's been wild to see because I don't think they're this bad. I think they're probably going to turn around, but the thing they don't tell you about bad PDO is that it feels probably horrible and demoralizing in the moment, that it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, even the process is good.
Is there anything about that team that surprises you in terms of how bad they've been? Like what is the specific thing outside of PTO or PDO that you can look at and say like, all right, things might swing at some point? Is there any individual performance, like what's the reason for optimism for this team? Because it seems like they're in short supply right now.
I think the main reason for optimism for me is that the process is good. And we know that as misunderstood as Jordan Binnington is, he is generally an average to good goalie. And I know that falls into the PDO bucket, but that really is it. He probably should have made some more saves over the first 14 games or however many they played. I think one of the things I have noticed is that Jordan Kyrou has been defensively strong, and it's a bit overshadowed by the fact that the goalie behind him cannot make a single save. So I think once that starts unfolding, he might have a bit of a glow-up season himself, but right now the pucks aren't going for him. Binnington is doing his worst version of himself in more ways than one. And I don't know. I do still believe in this team. I think they have a lot of good forwards. I think the top four is very strong. They need to do something about that third pair because Logan Mailloux may be one of the worst defensive players we've ever seen. And I do not say that lightly. Like it's bad.
They're 8th in expected goal share in the league. They're ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights in that metric. The problem is, so are the Calgary Flames. So I don't think it's actually all that reassuring for whatever reason. But I do think there are reasons to believe in their process. But to Dom's point, like I was there early when this spell started, right? They had the game against Utah where they went down 4-0 in the first period. They showed some fight. Their next game was in Detroit. And the Red Wings had given up 7 to the Islanders too. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be tight checking, get right game for two coaches, McClellan and Montgomery, that are going to reel this in. And the Blues go up 4-0. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess the Blues got the message. Until McClellan calls a timeout and the Red Wings come back and they beat them 6-4. And like the Red Wings did play better after that. But to Dom's point, a lot of this was just like Binnington let the Red Wings back into this game. And I don't know if that is something. Sometimes goaltending can just go in spurts and you lose it for a stretch and you get it back and it can solve all ills. But it's been a disaster over the last 3 weeks here.
It's funny to see the outcome last night against the Washington Capitals too, who are to some degree, they're like the face of parity in the Eastern Conference, right? Like that's been true the last couple years. It's certainly true now. The Caps with that win, it actually puts them back into wild card position, which is wild. They jump up the standings. It's easy to jump up the Eastern Conference standings. It's easy to fall down them because there's 2 points that separate the wild card spot from the bottom of the league, and I think 6 total separating first from last. So I think that's a big through line for the early chunk of the season here, right? Is that there are teams who are better than we thought they'd be. There's teams that are worse than we thought they'd be, and they're all kind of jockeying for position already. And I think Washington's certainly in that mix, aren't they?
Yeah, this is a team that we saw win the conference last year. We all expected some level of regression, but that they'd still be a playoff team. And the fact the Washington Capitals are smack dab in the middle of the Eastern Conference, I think, is telling of the entire situation, where that's like the one thing we did expect. Everything else seems to be kind of messy. No one expected the 8-4-2 Penguins. Flyers are hanging around the playoff race. The Islanders are doing their thing. Tampa Bay, Florida, New York, they're not doing as well as I think a lot of people thought they would. So it all just creates a mess where the biggest thing is that no one is doing poorly. Everyone is above 500. Even the Bruins are winning more games than they're losing. So it is tough because this is probably a year where, with the Gavin McKenna coming up, we'd usually see more teams tanking, and there's no reason to tank in the East right now.
I mean, the Florida Panthers are tied for last place in points percentage. That tells you something. I know they've got the injuries. We've dissected that ad nauseum. Like this isn't the fully operational Florida Panthers, but also they're in last place with a 500 points percentage. So the fact that that's even in the mix is just wild to me. They're tied with the Rangers, who's a team that a lot of folks at the start of the season were due for a glow up under Sullivan and all that too. So those are the teams at the bottom of the standings right now, which is just wild.
The problem with that is if you're one of these upstarts that's outperforming what everyone expected of you, if you're Pittsburgh, if you're Detroit, if you're Boston, Philly, like you're like, oh, great. Like, you know, we've got this great start. Florida's in last place. That can only mean good things for us, right? Well, you're probably only a game, maybe 2 games clear there. So it really doesn't have any margin for you. You've banked some points, but kind of so is everybody. And so the good news is it's wide open. It's as open as I think I've ever seen it. Maybe than we will ever see it. I haven't looked at like what this usually means for a playoff threshold, but my gut instinct is that it probably would indicate more of a, you know, it's been like 91, 92 in recent years. Like that's, I think, where it's probably headed again. And, you know, if you're one of those teams that's trying to make up ground from where you've been in recent years, yeah, it's good to not have to probably get to 98 or 97 this year to live there. But it seems like everybody's going to be like, if everyone's going to be a 500 or better team, then yeah, 82's last place, 92 might be 8th, but that's going to be a crowded mix that's going to go right down to the very end.
I was talking to somebody about the Penguins, of course, recently, and that was exactly how I framed it with them. Because there is reason to be excited about that team. We all thought that's a potential bottom 5 roster at minimum coming into the season. 8-4-2. They had a nice October. Everyone's excited about Ben Kindle, Evgeny Malkin's hooked up to the rejuvenation machine. Sidney Crosby, getting good goaltending. Yada yada yada. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they're second in the division right now, and like you guys said, there's so little breathing room between that phase and then being, outside the wild card race. So for as good as Pittsburgh has played and for as much reason for optimism there is, it feels like they're at their ceiling. It's not possible to imagine the Pittsburgh Penguins playing any better than they have the first month of the season, and they only have a 3-point cushion or whatever it is in the wild card. So yeah, it's I think it is going to challenge us, and it's going to make us think differently about, at least in the short term, about how we view playoff point thresholds and the Thanksgiving standing, rule of thumb and all that. This seems like there really is potential this season for that to kind of get upended. Is there who is the team from the mix, like the from the muck and from the mud of the mushy middle of the conference right now? Who are a couple teams who we think could emerge from it? Like, who are we feeling more good about than bad when we look at that, 16 through 13 point range right now?
Yeah, I think I'm feeling really good about the Tampa Bay Lightning, upstart team.
That's
in
boring.
Florida.
It's a boring answer.
That's I'm still gonna fuck with my Buffalo Sabres.
No, come on, dude.
They have been injured from the first month. They're still hanging in there. Josh Doan has been unbelievable for them. Alex Lyon, one of the greatest unsung heroes of all time. And
this is season preview stuff that's now bleeding into a November podcast where I'm like, we can't do it. We can't do this again.
I still believe, baby. People need to know that I have not given up on our Sabres. Rasmus Dahlin is playing horribly, and they're still in it. So I
saw he's leading. As of a couple of days ago, he was leading the league in defensive zone giveaways. Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah, that was our number 3 defenseman.
I think I picked him to win the Norris, maybe.
Yeah.
Oops.
So just wait until we get that version. Tage puts up 60-goal pace. They're fine. They're gonna be fine. Some of these teams are going to fall off. Flyers, Penguins, see you later. Red Wings are kind of fine, I guess. Yeah, I'm still rocking the Sabres. I mean, you expect me to pick Boston, Columbus, maybe? I don't know. Max, who you got?
I still believe in Ottawa. I mean, I think that, and obviously, I assume we would all say Florida here if it was an option, because Sean said 13 to 16 range.
Florida's done, obviously.
I'll exempt them. I still really believe in Ottawa, and they got to just avoid being in too big a hole before they get Brady Tkachuk back. And obviously, it starts with Linus Ullmark. They need more out of him. He was a difference maker for them at times last year, but I don't think he's been sapped of his mojo here. Like he'll be back at some point. He may need the time machine to go back and get it from 1960 or whatever, but I still believe in the Senators. I just like their build. I like the center core that they have there. I like the D, and if they have Ullmark going, I still think they're a team that can be a top 3 team in the Atlantic.
I'm not sure they're going to hang around all that much longer, but I love what the Islanders are doing. They're fun to watch. This is fire wagon hockey on Long Island. And Matthew Schaefer, he's becoming. He had another incredible interview with the TNT crew yesterday, by the way. I like everything about him. I like the way he plays. I like the way he talks. I like the way he behaves. I'm all in favor of the start of the Matthew Schaefer era here, but I'm still just not. I'm not sold on that team overall. Certainly as a playoff contender or as a wild card contender. But you know what, man, they're 1 point out. So Who the hell knows?
And they are a team that, like, at the start of this year, we talked about they're in like a sticky situation, right? Because they're clearly, they had 3 first-round picks. They're clearly going to be kind of going into this, new era, but you still had these 2 prime age top 6 centers in Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal. And do you trade one? You have, your captain Anders Lee is a pending free agent. What do you do with him? Well, for now, it doesn't look really like a sticky situation at all. It looks like the decision will make itself for them. They're either going to be good and they're going to push forward with this, or it'll fall off, and then they can make those decisions. But it's a good problem to have right now on the island.
Maybe a little bit of a late Olympic push from Bo Horvat too. He's got 9 goals already. I saw Elliot Friedman mentioned him in his 32 Thoughts write-up this morning as a guy who's maybe got some attention. That doesn't surprise me. I think Bo Horvat's a guy who's always had some degree of there's always been some degree of shine on him, I think, when it relates to the international discussion. I think they've always thought pretty highly of him, and the fact that he is, putting together a pretty solid season so far. I think he's going to make the final roster? No, but I think he's pushing himself into the discussion in a pretty real way.
Don't think, just answer, both of you. Better chance to make the Olympic team, Bo Horvat or Matthew Schaefer?
I was just wondering that. What does Matthew Schaefer have to do to make the Olympic team? Because I don't think they're going to take a rookie defenseman. He's not taking tough minutes right now. He probably could or should, but he hasn't proven that fact to the point where you can really trust him in best on best. But at the same time, he's been so unbelievable. He's so fast. He had such a different element. At the start of the season, I think one of the concerns was losing Dobson, losing that impact. And I did not expect Schaefer to completely replace it within the first 10 games. He's already that good and arguably better, which is a crazy thing to say about a rookie. Like, it's only been however many games, and I already have a projection for him that is higher than Noah Dobson's, which is a wild thing for a guy who was 17 a month ago.
It's impossible for me to imagine him ultimately making the roster. Great as he's been, as much international hockey as we're going to see from that kid over the next 20 years or however long it is, it doesn't feel like that's in the cards right now. And I think a big reason for that, we've seen this logic applied certainly to the Four Nations roster, is the presence of Cale Makar. Like, the fact that he's there, he's like the no doubt, he's going to get every second of power play time. They use that as some kind of crutch, whether we're talking about Evan Bouchard or whatever, lesser similar versions of him. I think they use that logic, understandably, to be like, well, we don't need a Cale Makar impersonator. We've got the real thing. Like, we've got Cale Makar at home. We don't need to buy into anything else. So it's tough for me to imagine them trusting Schaefer enough to be like a situational, injury call up or whatever. I think that job's going to go to someone who's more established and more boring and 32 years old or whatever. But what do I know?
My only caveat to it is that, like, one of the stories of the Four Nations for Canada was a pretty unproven, and granted I know he wasn't 18, but Thomas Harley, right? If you go back to Drew Doughty, I think Drew Doughty was 20 at the time when he made his first Olympic team. It's not like Canada has never gone with a young defenseman before and benefited from it. So I would not say it's a 0. I would lean, if you ask me Horvat or Schaefer, I would lean Schaefer.
Schaefer's not going to get a chance to be young Drew Doughty because his spot's going to be taken by old Drew Doughty. That's what's going to happen. Let's take a break. We're going to talk about some surprise players after this. Stick around. All right, we're back. We talked about teams in the first segment. I want to talk about some players in segment number 2. We want to check in on some players who seem like they either have leveled up or in the process of leveling up. Frankie and Sean and I talked about Cutter Gauthier last night, or yesterday afternoon rather, coming off a hat trick at the time. Everyone loves the Ducks. There's certainly plenty to like about the roster, about the way they're playing. But I wanted to hear from you guys and see what your perspective is on the Cutter Gauthier experience specifically. Max, let's start with you because I know he's a player who you paid a lot of attention to as a prospect, which wasn't all that long ago. What have you seen from him, and how much of a surprise has all this been?
Well, it's the surprise is the degree of it, right? Like, you just don't see guys scoring 10 goals this early into a season this young too often. But this is who you wanted Cutter Gauthier to be, right? And when he's going 5th overall, the one thing you're thinking is this guy is going to be able to score goals and not be intimidated and in a playoff kind of setting. We haven't seen the latter part yet. But on this Ducks team that's a little run and gun still, you need guys who are just going to be putting the puck in the net. And Cutter Gauthier, with his shot, with his skating, like he's certainly a guy who's going to get himself in position to do that. And the good news is so far it's happening. I don't know that I'm going to call this like a sustainable breakthrough here. It's just very encouraging to see.
Was he always a shot volume guy? Like, is that how much of that is new from him? Because he's second in shots at 5-on-5 behind McKinnon so far this season, and that's crazy. Is that something we saw from him as a draft eligible or a prospect?
The shot's always been one of his like best traits. I don't know if I could tell you he's quite at that level, right? That's a pretty jaw-dropping stat. But yeah, when you can shoot the puck like that, that's what you're looking to do. And I don't think he was so much of a dangler or a setup man. It is shoot the puck and get north and south and do that. And so, yeah, I'm not like surprised to see him shooting it a lot. That's elite company, obviously. So
there's more elite company to that, because I looked into this for 16 stats. There's one player season, Alex Ovechkin 2008-9, who has had more shots per 60 than Cutter Gauthier this season with 16.4.
That's incredible.
Like, he is ripping it. He, like, per game, he has more shots than McKinnon right now by like a hefty margin. I did not see this coming, but when you talk about sustainability, the amount of times he's firing the puck, I think, speaks to being able to score a lot of goals. That is the Ovechkin playbook, and he is firing away.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too. Like, I think he's at 6 expected or so. Like, he's
still pretty good.
That's still pretty good. Still pretty good, but also outstripping it to some extent. Like he's the kind of guy they needed. The Ducks needed one of those other guys. Not Leo Carlson, not Mason McTavish. They needed someone else from that next layer of prospect to really step up. And the fact that it's him isn't that much of a surprise. Obviously, he's certainly super well regarded, but the fact that it's happened so quickly is really interesting.
And it's just like the collection that the Ducks have of these guys. Not to shift this back to teams, but like if you could design a forward core, like it's going to have a little bit of everything. Yeah, you have your centers, your two-way centers, Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish. You got your sniper and Cutter Gauthier. You have Beckett Seneca as your playmaker. Like, I'm missing somebody off the top of my head here. But yeah, I mean, Roger McQueen's on the way. All of their young guys have a little bit of everything. They've got size, they've got skill, they've got scoring. You've got some two-way guys. Like, it's just going to be a terror of a team to play against in a very short amount of time.
Talked about the Caps earlier as it relates to the St. Louis Blues, but I wanted to bring up the goaltender, which is another guy we talked about yesterday. But I want to get y'all's take on it, honestly. Logan Thompson, just another solid night against St. Louis. He's certainly played his way, to me, to the top of the Olympic goalie discussion for Canada, hasn't he? Like, and what has this season meant, Dom, I guess, in the greater arc of his career? I think you and I talked about it at the start of the season. We talked to people around the league who kind of wanted to see him repeat the performance that we saw from him last season, and he's certainly we're a month in, but he's made that stand up so far.
Yeah, our motto in player tiers is basically do it again. If you had a great season and it's your first great season, just do it again and you will get the love you deserve. Thompson, obviously, this is very early in the season, but he is looking like he is doing it again. He's 4th in GSAX. He has been stealing games for Washington. He has been as good or better than last year, to the point that if Jordan Binnington is the starter for game 1, I may break my brand new TV, because Logan Thompson
He's a nice
has
guy,
been
though.
unbelievable.
He's misunderstood. No.
He should understand how pucks go behind him.
Don't break your television. Jordan Binnington is understood.
It's also gonna happen, Dom. Like they're not gonna go away from the guy that won him a gold medal.
He's been so bad this year that it would be crazy. And yet you guys are right. You guys are right. How, like, if you guys are both American, if you see Jordan Binnington on the other side instead of Logan Thompson, like, how happy are you?
I just watched Jordan
It's an
Binnington beat him in a gold medal game.
Right. I feel like I've learned my lesson on that one here. I don't know if I want him on the other side for a random game in February when it's, Blues Kraken or something. But if it's a big game, if it's an international game, I don't think I want any parts of Jordan Binnington.
To your point, how much is Jordan Binnington just going to be sending the game film of this exact game where he beat Jordan Binnington so resoundingly to Hockey Canada people?
No, and they're going to say it's November 6th. Who cares? Another funny bit from 32 Thoughts. This morning was the concern, and I'd heard some degree of this too. The concern from Team Canada was how Logan Thompson would, as it related to the Four Nations roster, was how Logan Thompson would react to being the number 2 behind Binnington. And what Elliott reported essentially is that there was some degree of like reassurance from Logan Thompson to the Team Canada brass, like, no, I'm good. I'm good in whatever role you see from me. I think that makes Canada's right. If they take it to the logical endpoint, and if they believe him, and if Logan Thompson, is done what he needed to do on his end to put himself on that roster, I think that makes Canada much, much scarier. Because what we do know about Jordan Binnington is like as good as he is in big games and as good as he was in Four Nations, the possibility for self-combustion and self-destruction is always there too, right? So in the event that he does have some kind of meltdown, as an American, I would much rather have someone other than Logan Thompson be the guy to step up and take over. All things considered, I'd rather have Aiden Hill or whoever else is part of this group. So yeah, keep Thompson off the roster if you're Canada for me, because I think it would make it weaker.
There's always team building dynamics like that to consider, but like Canada does not have the luxury of leaving the NHL save percentage leader off their roster with what the goaltending mix is for Canada. It's just not something you can do.
Nope.
The other guys who are high in goal save above expected from Canada, after Logan Thompson, are Darcy Kemper, Tristan Jarry, and Stuart Skinner.
Among Canadians, you're saying?
Yeah, among Canadians. And to their credit, Jarry has been good, but he's still Tristan Jarry. Stuart Skinner is still Stuart Skinner. Like, it's probably going to be Kemper if Hill's still injured or if he doesn't play well. I'm just wondering, how bad do the first 3 months have to go for Jordan Binnington for them to say, maybe we could use the better goalie number 1? Like, I understand his big game mentality, but like there has to be a certain threshold where you say,
there's not.
Maybe
there isn't.
That's insane to me. That is crazy.
He just won John Cooper a big shiny trophy. It just happened. Like we're not going to see that.
This is hockey and this is goalies. Like it should matter a little bit.
Did they get trophies at the Four Nations? What was
What
was the prize there? Okay.
I thought you meant do goalies get trophies?
They kept Binnington away. Like that's fine.
Yeah, they don't get trophies. They get souvenir pucks, as we learned last night. Okay. I want to talk about Moritz Seider too. Max, you're the world's foremost Moritz Seider expert. What have you seen from him this year? It's been a gradual climb, I think, for him over the last couple, where he's gotten to a point now that a lot of people expected him to be at, and I think now a lot of the performance and a lot of the production kind of matches the opinion that people held of him maybe a few years ago. That's what it feels like from the outside, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many conversations, Dom, you and I have had about Seider's minutes over the last 3 years, but they've been at like inhumane levels, basically, like far and away the toughest in the league. This year, they're back into the realm of humanity. They're still very hard, but he's crushing them. And I think that was always like the kind of the question Dom and I would lob back and forth is like, do you assume that if the minutes were merely like the 10th hardest in the league instead of number 1 with a bullet, that, that makes up for the difference in some of the underlying numbers, the play driving, the territorial? We're seeing it live right now. And the answer is yes. He's running like a 56% expected goal share. Like you see him, the skating, the physicality, all those things have always been visibly excellent. But when it has come to the territorial backing, when they're tilting the ice in those minutes against those tough players, that's how you win games. I mean, you win games by keeping your opposing team's star players either to the perimeter in the defensive zone or stuck in their own zone. And that's basically what Moritz Seider's been able to do this year.
I think that actually started last year
Uh-huh.
2 years ago is when he got the most ridiculous usage I think I've ever seen. Not just defense's own stars, not just quality competition, but he had to do it next to Ben Sherratt. And it's not a place I think many defensemen could succeed, but you'd still wanted to see something a little stronger than what he put up. Last year was, I think, him showing, okay, these are minutes I can handle. I can win these minutes. I can be the kind of guy who can lead a franchise from the back end. And just like it was with Thompson, it was a conversation of, okay, do it again. And Seider's been even better this year, where all the tools, all the eye test stuff people were saying 3 years ago, like, no, this is a very good defenseman. They're finally getting the results where I actually don't think people are talking about Seider enough right now. Like, he has been one of the best two-way defensemen over the last 2 years now. And I think he can be in a Norris conversation at the end of the year if his defense continues being this good. Like, we're talking about someone that is Drew Doughty-like in his ability to influence the game at both ends of the ice and really make it hard for other teams to score.
I mean, it's water finding its level, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like, they found, like, 2 seasons ago, the minutes were too hard. They would have been too hard for anybody. But last year, it feels like they unlocked something where they're like, this is the level of high end, competition that we believe he can play at consistently, and he's got better partners now, right?
Well, in Red Wings land, everything also kind of comes back to this Todd McClellan coaching change at Christmas a year ago. And I think that plays a role in this too, right? Like, Lalonde was feeding Seider and Edvinsson together that diet of minutes, right? And it was similar to the one that Seider had 2 seasons ago. Then McClellan comes in, he splits up Seider and Edvinsson. Seider's still taking hard minutes, but it's not quite as like loaded all up on his plate. So it's him and Sherratt, and they're getting hard minutes, but it's not quite that extreme. Starts the year that way, but they're back to Seider and Edvinsson together, and they've kind of managed to keep it balanced in spite of that. I think the idea when you split up Seider and Edvinsson is they can share the load. When you put them together, they're kind of supposed to eat the whole thing, and they've managed to keep it manageable. If I can say manage twice like that.
You may not. Sorry.
Damn.
Nick Schmaltz in Utah, man, he was always a guy, I feel like, for people who play fantasy hockey, you knew you could rely on Nick Schmaltz to give you some pretty consistent, bench production, right? And he is leveled up from that so far this season. We talk about a lot of other people in Utah. We talk about Logan Cooley and we talk about Clayton Keller. I think what they've gotten from Schmaltz has been huge in terms of their overall success. He's got 18 points, which is the same as Connor Bedard and Kirill Kaprizov and Dylan Larkin and John Tavares. Like, this is pretty high-end production from him so far. He's doing it in a sustainable way, too. Like, all their on-ice results with him are fantastic. He's played most of his minutes with Clayton Keller and Barrett Hayton. I think that's big, too, because you're getting, you found someone to put on the Keller line that isn't Gauthier, that isn't, one of those guys, to really give you some more diversified production throughout the lineup. So I think Schmaltz has been impressive, and I think he's been really important to a team that's been one of the early season stories.
It's a bit of a contract year bump for him. I think we see that often.
I love seeing contract year bumps. Get paid.
Oh,
boys.
some money's on the line.
Mhm.
Boom, greatest player alive. It is wild that a team with Keller, Cooley, Gauthier, Schmaltz has been their best player this year, and it's not just that he has 18 points. Like, the underlying numbers are coming during tough minutes. Like, the Hayton line with Schmaltz and Keller, that's their shutdown line. They allow Cooley, Gauthier, and Peterka to fly all over the ice and be the fastest kids alive. And I think having that substance at both ends of the ice for Schmaltz is what really takes him to another level. I thought at the start of the season they might give his power play spot to Peterka, the new guy in town, and that has not been the case. And thankfully, because he's been their go-to guy there.
I've only been able to watch Utah a little bit this year, but it's the defensive number that jumps off the screen to me there, Dom. Like, it's not something I really associated with Schmaltz's game prior to this, and I'm wondering, like, at least from what you've seen and what the model says, like, how different is that in his game? Because that leapt off the page.
There was always like a little bit to that. Like, I think he was a bit underrated. I think Hayton especially is underrated as a two-way center. He's had some great numbers in that regard over the last 2 years. But Schmaltz has leveled up to a level where he's a lot more responsible. I think I'd going this year, I had him a bit above average. Now he looks like one of the better defensive players in the league, and it's just a two-way evolution where if you have the puck more, the other team has the puck less, and they are just dominating right now.
It wouldn't be a show if we didn't talk about Macklin Celebrini in one way or another, but he's number 5 for us here. He's tied for the league lead in points. We mentioned it in power rankings last week, Dom. You and I, like, is it possible that we see the second year explosion from him the way we've seen from the Sidney Crosbys and Connor McDavid's of the world, where it's like, all right, we're in our second NHL season. It's time to go out and win a scoring title. Like, at some point, if this keeps up, we're gonna have to seriously explore the possibility.
I think it's definitely possible. He's already tied with Connor McDavid points. It feels like San Jose plays in a fast and loose way that also allows him to play at a pace where he can keep the offense up. I think a couple power rankings ago, we noticed that his XG wasn't great. The Sharks were getting crushed a bit in his minutes, but when you're scoring 21 points in 12 games, or whatever, it truly does not matter. He has been unreal. I think last year, just how complete his game felt. He has some Crosby-like shifts against Moritz Seider over last week. He looks like the guy who can go from star first year to absolute superstar second year, where I would not be shocked if he finished top 5 in points. And if he won the scoring title, the only surprise would be that he did it on this Sharks team.
Sportsnet Stats had a tweet last night. Most points by a teenager.
I know which one you're going to use. I had it bookmarked. You can drop it.
Most points by a teenager in the first 14 games of a season. You had Steve Yzerman and Wayne Gretzky tied at the top, 23. Sidney Crosby at 22. And tied for 4th with Brian Trotier's Macklin Celebrini at 21. So I would say it's okay company for the kid.
Anytime you're saying tied with Brian Trottier and anything, you're probably,
and he's the low name on the list.
He's the worst player out of that group. Not bad.
I saw tweet Sharks were 5-2-1 their last 8. Celebrini has 15 points in those 8 games. So yeah, that'll do.
Correlation does equal causation in those two stats.
Yeah.
Future Canadian Olympian Macklin Celebrini. I feel like he makes it. Me and Haley talked about that last week. This is just a Macklin Celebrini fan podcast now, I think. Thank you, boys. We'll be back for segment 3. All right, folks, we're back. Keeping it simple today. We're doing a round of stick taps from the 3 of us. I'm going with Nazem Kadri. Scores a goal in his thousands game last night. Spoke afterwards about how much it meant to him, which I think is cool. It's always seeing when. It's also interesting to see what milestones and what nice round numbers mean things to mean to people, and which ones kind of don't. In 1,000 games is a big one. Guys always get up for that. Kadri certainly seemed like it meant a great deal to him. He scores, the Flames win, blah blah. I'm glad this happened. I'm glad it happened early. I'm glad that the Flames got to put some butts in the seats for that game. And now they can trade him. Just move on. Let's give the people what they want. Give 31 other NHL teams what they want, which is Nazem Kadri as a second or third line center. We can just move on from this. So stick that to him, and now it's time for Greg Conroy to pick up the phone and make this happen.
Where do you want to see him land?
It's a great question.
Carolina?
It can't have everyone.
But like that feels like the perfect trading
Carolina
partner.
would be fun. Last year I really wanted him to end up back in Colorado just for parallelism's sake. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Obviously they have Brock Nelson now. I think the Canadians were the one that I was kicking around. I think that would be really fun. The idea of Nazem Kadri playing playoff games for the Montreal Canadiens against maybe some other Atlantic Division teams is very appealing to me.
Could he go back to the Leafs? Like, is that completely out of the realm of possibility?
Have to move out salary.
It's in the realm of possibility if no one else is offering anything. I feel like the Leafs would be like, all right, here's a couple magic beans, 4th round pick.
You guys want a conditional 2nd round pick? We don't have anybody under the age of 25 who's any good.
And then the Habs will be like, Yeah, we can beat that one, I think. Let's just check. Oh, yeah, we've got enough assets. So
Nick Robertson, you are a Calgary Flame.
And to your point, Dom, like the Canton still have half of that Rantanen return sitting around that they can just flip the other way to Calgary for Nazem Kadri. So maybe Carolina can have everyone.
they have the cap space for sure.
Interesting. Max, who's your guy this week?
I'm going to go with Spencer Knight, but it's going to kind of broadly just be the Blackhawks. They've been way more fun than I think anyone expected them to be to start out this year. Knight's been one of the best stories in the league, right up there with the league leaders in save percentage. I think the league leader in goals saved above expected. So awesome kind of comeback story for Spencer Knight. But the Blackhawks as a whole are really fun. Tyler Bertuzzi had a hat trick last night. Frank Nazar's been really good. They're young guys, just like are making a difference. Jeff Blashill a pretty good comeback story in his own right. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks and the very rich story ground that they're providing for Scott Powers and Mark Lazarus right now.
I'm happy we're living in the time of Frank Nazar. He's a fun player. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him over the next few years, because God knows the Blackhawks are going to be nationally televised in America quite a bit moving forward. So let's go. Don, do you have one? Pick one.
I do have one. Naturally, we have to have one segment about everyone's favorite hockey team.
I told you not to do this. Okay.
And I'm going to do it anyway. Because this is not about the Leafs. This is about America. And how last year, Auston Matthews was a little too injured to be the impactful top center that the United States needed at the Four Nations, which they lost to a superior nation. This year, that may be different because Auston Matthews, over the last couple of games, looks like he's back. He's scored 2 vintage Auston Matthews goals. He looks like he can shoot the puck again. And I think that is great for my American friends on this podcast, where they might actually win gold. They could, maybe, one day.
You framed it in the only acceptable way. You're a smart young man. I've always said that about you.
Thank you.
Thanks to both of you for stepping up in Haley's absence. She's doing much more important things, obviously. And thank you, fine folks, for listening to this. The Prospect Boys have the next show. That's tomorrow. They're going to talk Wheeler's latest rankings. Shocker, who's at the top of that one, Scout McKenna. But there's plenty of interesting stuff on there. I perused it a couple days ago. They're going to dive deep into that. Frank, Sean, and I are back on Wednesday, and Haley is back in the driver's seat next Thursday, so see you then.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.